waiting for 7 o'clock. There we go. Good evening. My name is Tom Johnson. I'm one of the volunteers here. Is anyone here for the first time? Welcome, welcome. We appreciate you finding us and hope you enjoy it tonight. If you have any questions afterwards, somebody with a badge, you can approach one of us. We'll be trying to help you with that. We have a few announcements before we start. If you haven't already silenced your cell phones, please do so at this time and put your phones away so you can be fully present for the talk and meditation. We invite you to join Geshe Lobsang Tenzin for our weekly Medicine Buddha practice in person and online at 6 p.m. on Tuesdays. Next week, for our Tuesday evening public talk at 7 p.m., Geshe Lobsang La will speak on the 8 verses of Training the Mind, verses 5 and 7. Tonight are verses 4 and 6. On Wednesdays at 7 p.m., the monks conduct evening prayers for His Holiness the Dalai Lama's long life and other teachers. On Thursdays at 4:30 p.m., the Drepung Loseling monks conduct the Protector Puja for smooth journeys, successive interviews, and medical treatments, new businesses, etc. This Saturday, November the 8th, we will have a Vajrasattva empowerment led by Gonsa Rinpoche. Afterwards, Geshe Lobsang will lead the teaching. This event will be held in person and online via Zoom, and is the final class for the intermediate series. Those who have received the empowerment are permitted to join in the weekly Sunday Vajrasattva practice sessions at 9:30 a.m. The monks will offer traditional filling of statues and stupas, followed by a sacred consecration ceremony in person and via our streaming channels on Tuesday, December 9th at 6:30 p.m. We invite you to drop off or ship your statues and stupas used for personal devotion and practice to be filled and consecrated by the monks. We also have a limited selection available in the gift shop. Statue drop-off and ship receiving deadline is Tuesday, December the 2nd. This is not usually an issue on Tuesdays, but as a reminder, please do not park on the grass along the driveway or behind the building. And if the lot is full, overflow parking can be found via Skyland Drive, which is the traffic light right up here. Take a right at the elementary school, and then you can access the school parking there and then walk through. There's gates there that you can't park or drive through there, so you can walk through. Information on all events can be found in the lobby and on our website at drepung.org. And if anyone is interested in volunteer opportunities to get more involved in supporting our center and programs, please see me or the volunteer coordinator, Michael DeFell, who's at the door there. And if you're interested in becoming a member to support our ongoing programs and take advantage of benefits like discounts on courses and retreats, applications are available in the library, and you can also register online. So finally, there is a donation box near the entrance to this room. If your generous support helps us continue to offer programs and services like this to our Atlanta community and to those around the world through our online platforms. Thank you for your patience during these announcements. And now if we'll please stand to welcome Geshe Lobsang La.
Good evening. Maybe we can do a little chanting to settle our mind. Yeah? Would you like to do that? Let's do it. We'll just do some mantra and then the 4 immeasurables. Okay? And then we will do brief meditation from there. Tadyata gate gate parangate parasamgate bodhisattva. 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 May all beings have happiness. May they be free from suffering. May they find the joy that has never known suffering. May they be free from attachment and hatred. May all beings have happiness. May they be free from suffering. May they find the joy that has never known suffering. May they be free from attachment and hatred. May all beings have happiness. May they be free from suffering. May they find the joy that has never known suffering. May they be free from attachment and hatred. Please take a few moments to just sit with letting this as deep a sense of love and compassion. That is our wish for others to have happiness, and our wish for others to be free from suffering. Just sit with that deep feeling, deep wish, letting it just sink deep in our hearts and mind. If it helps, just visualize, imagine, or to see this urge to see others having happiness and the causes of happiness. The urge to relieve the suffering, the difficulties of others. See them relieved of that. Let it just unfold as a pearl of light, warm, healing. And as you sit with this love and compassion, in the sense wanting others to be happy, have happiness, wanting others to be free of suffering, are there people that you can perhaps maybe just let this, as you see that, including in that is our own well-being also. Let this light with each in-breath grow, filling our own chest, our own being, just deeply soaking with those healing, soothing lights, bringing that sense of relief, deep sense of happiness, well-being. And then directing our attention to those who are in need of well-being, like perhaps someone in your family, circle of friends, someone close to that who may be struggling, who may be in need for health and well-being or emotional well-being. Just let this healing, soothing light emanate from you, reaching them, just filling their bodies with the soothing, healing lights, bringing the health, joy, and healing or eliminating their illnesses. Just take a few moments, if it is not inconvenient, to just let this light, the healing, our own urge to see others endowed with happiness and relieved of their suffering, in the form of these soothing lights emanating to a larger and larger circle of beings. Perhaps our colleagues at the workplace, people in our neighborhood, the city that we live in, the country we are in, and beyond to the whole world. Just let it, if it feels comfortable, let this outgoing, emanating lights be conjoined with our deep sense of love and compassion, together with it even expressing, may all beings have happiness, may all beings be free from suffering. May all beings have happiness. May all be free from suffering. Just with that, sending out the such sources of healing and well-being as they emanate in the form of these soothing, healing lights and warm, healing, soothing lights reaching the larger and larger circle of beings, endowing them with happiness, health, relieving them of their suffering, anguish, and so forth. As we conclude this brief meditation, just take a moment to notice how you feel. Taking a few moments to let this love and compassion connect with our love and compassion, and to share that those who are in our immediate circle of family, friends, or colleagues who need of healing, that's sending them in the larger world. What we notice, what we feel, it's a deeper sense of joy, and let's take a moment to dedicate this practice and any benefits coming from this practice together, dedicating these merits or the benefits to greater good, peace, healing, harmony and happiness for all beings. Thank you. So, we will continue with discussion on the 8 verses on mind training. 8 verses. Let's recite this together. Yes? I will be the chant master to start. But join, please. Recite it as pouring your whole feelings into it, if you can. By thinking of all sentient beings as more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel, for accomplishing the highest aim, I will always hold them dear. Whenever I am in the company of others, I will regard myself as the lowest among all, and from the depth of my heart, cherish others as supreme. In my every action, I will watch my mind, and the moment destructive emotions arise, I will confront them strongly and avert them, since they will hurt both me and others. Whenever I see ill-natured beings, or those who are overwhelmed by heavy misdeeds or suffering, I will cherish them as something rare, as though I found a priceless treasure. Whenever someone out of envy does me wrong by attacking or belittling me, I will take defeat upon myself and give the victory to others. Even when someone I have helped, or in whom I have placed great hope, mistreats me very unjustly, I will view that person as true spiritual teacher. In brief, directly or indirectly, I will offer help and happiness to all my mothers, and secretly take upon myself all their hurt and suffering. I will learn to keep all these aspects untainted by thoughts of 8 worldly concerns. May I recognize all things as like illusion, and without attachment gain freedom from the bondage. Thank you. So these are profound verses evoking some very difficult mindsets to embody. We have talked about Lo-Jong in the context of what really makes us, contributes to our well-being. It's the other-oriented attitude. Instead of excessively self-focused. That's what they talk about, the meaning, the purpose. Having, what can we do to our children, our society, our colleagues, or the world that we live in? Whatever, the meaning doesn't matter how big or small, but something about when it is not just me, some goals that transcend something that we need, that transcend narrow personal interest. We're seeking something little beyond ourselves. As the research shows that people with the sense of meaning and purpose show greater quality of life, that they are more happy, that a greater sense of fulfillment, greater relationship unfolds around that. Right? That being very kind of self-absorbed, me, versus somebody to have a little bit of interest of others, your own children, somebody else. It's going to make a difference. We are social beings. It makes emotionally that builds that sense of connection. So the second part, research shows that what contributes to happiness is the connectivity, sense of connection, community. These are very, very important emotional states, a sense of connection. This is again when we, of course, some may come very naturally to our own children and like that. Some we have to practice. But to bring to all sentient beings, we need to practice more. And what would help us cherish others like our own children? And that is, as it says that thinking all sentient beings more precious than wish-fulfilling jewel to accomplish the highest aim. Thinking other beings more precious than what, how we are benefited by others. Seeing that what we receive from others, our interdependence, every need we have coming from others. If we can really see that how the clean air we need, the plants, the trees are important, we will cherish trees. We will be naturalist, environmentalist, want to protect trees and like that. If we really see that, we need the clean sources of waters, like that. We will want to have the environment, not polluted by all these pollutants and like that. We can see that how, if we want to, if you really like honey, you want to cherish the honeybees. Or if you really get it, that without honeybees, we won't have food. Within 4 years, if all honeybees disappeared, the scientists said that there will be a widespread famine. No food. Cross-fertilization without the bees would not be there, and then fruits, the crops Without such, we will starve to death. How precious are honeybees, right? Just take a moment that without that awareness and with that awareness, there's a shift that happens in us in which we cherish the honeybees versus just these are annoyance. Right? So that's what this has to do with, learning to make visible others' intended or unintended kindness to us. It's a practice we have to learn. No degree of just big ideas like the, trans states and big, like ideas. If we cannot get to feel that sense of connection and the basics, safety and security that comes with that, the lofty ideas, and this, you may feel like that for the time being, but deeply we will remain empty. So that's why that the compassion is other-oriented, but it's so cherished, so important. So the compassion training practices teach us to see our interdependence, how we receive benefits from others. That translates into the tender feeling towards others, warm-heartedness. And that's what draws our attention to others' needs, others' difficulties. This is a basic science. This is the way that how the mind works. This is a psychology, not some kind of mystical, thing. It's a basic way that how our ancestors have felt close to others. Animals, our animal ancestors. Bonobos, when they receive some grooming, which is very, comforting to them. To us also, there's someone giving a nice massage and that, it feels good, grooming. When they get some fruit, who they share with? Those who groomed them. Not like calculating they groomed and now I'm going to give back. Not that calculation. It's in a biology. That is how the nature has endowed us. When we receive benefit, when we are aware, it just unleashes that gratitude, the tender feeling towards others. Gratitude. Because the warm feeling towards others. So that's why if that is how we evolved, how the nature is endowed, we can use our little bit greater capacity to think, to critically think, to connect the dots, to bring a broader perspective, appraise, to see that how we are benefited by others, what all our needs come from others. We can, if we do that, we may be living a time of this really growing divide in the society. Political lines, like that. But if we can take at least some reflection to see that as a society, those who may be on the other side of your political, leaning, those are the people that they also are contributing to the society we are living. Also, that it have to. If we can bring that how we are interdependent beings. Yes, they are. We don't agree. See eye to eye on all that, but that doesn't mean that they are evil and bad. We have to see us as a community. That there are many different, policies, thinking that people have different. Our feelings are real, each, whether they are grounded in reality or not. The feelings are real. But we can't make. Simply, somebody does not agree with our own feelings and values, or the ideologies, the religion, or the color of the skin, and like that, or that they are evil. No. That we can't, flourish in that kind of environment. So, the other oriented, with really, this Lo-Jong teachings point to us that we practice, we practice, we reflect, we think about, we make visible the kindness, intended or unintended kindness of others. There is something about the humility is important, the second phrase talked about. That humility, not about just kind of, disrespecting oneself. The humility, the intellectual, the cognitive humility, the epistemic humility, that, when we can see that what I have is, the others are contributing to it, obviously we will have respect for others. In that respect, we bow. Our heads bow. Our bodies bow. That's internally, that reflects that humility, like that. Seeing how others are important. It can, and then on top of that, of course, the epistemic humility is very important if we were to grow, to learn from others, from all different ways that we can learn, many different, from everyone. There are ways that we can benefit, learn. With third phrase, the stanza talked about, it's about the emotion regulation, behavior regulation. When you talk about in my every action, I will watch my mind. And the moment destructive emotions arise, I will confront them strongly and avert them, since they will hurt both me and others. It's like, emotion regulation. That has to do with bringing awareness to our own behavior and what underlying impulses and the emotions are operating. And when we notice that a certain impulses and like that, or the certain involvement, that is coming from with a certain, irritations and so forth, then to work towards how to regulate them, how to transform them, and not just leaving them, going with that. So the emotional regulation we talked about, how you go about. Now the fourth and the sixth, I want to kind of use the fifth and the seventh together next week, but it's kind of as a theme, fourth and fifth go, together. Let's see what it's saying. Fourth, whenever I see ill-natured beings or those overwhelmed by heavy, serious misdeeds or suffering, I will cherish them as something rare, as though I have found a precious treasure. it's a, it seems very kind of extreme. Like how is that? Is that possible? Someone who is ill-natured, someone I see ill-natured. That is what I'm saying. That somebody. People whose values we don't agree, whose behaviors we don't agree with, whose ideologies we don't, whose politics we don't agree. It's also saying that they are very ill-natured. That's why that idea called, oh, this is a bad person. So bad, like that. Or maybe sometimes even evil. And then sometimes just, that to make this easier, so that these are rats. Like that. And like that. That's how, But Lo-Jong teaching is saying that when we see somebody who is behaving ways that we totally don't agree with, or if those people who are engaged in really bad actions, bad behavior, doing bad things for the community, the environment, or or towards you, or towards others, and like that, it's hard to have compassion for them. It's hard to have positive feelings for them, like that. Or there is sometimes if somebody is suffering is a little bit different, but the misdeeds and ill-natured, bad-natured people, it's difficult to have, not have the anger, the irritation. How would it? Much less to say that you will cherish them as priceless treasure. Treasure that is hard to find. It looks like that everywhere there's all kinds of people. It's not so rare. But the Lo-Jong masters, Lo-Jong practitioners, are telling us that we need to see that these are so rare moments for us to grow. So this is where the idea is not like that, the bad people doing bad things are good, okay, have more, it's so precious. Not like that. But, if our goal is to really have compassion for all beings, have this expanded compassion for all sentient beings, how would we have compassion without forgiveness? Can we have compassion without forgiving someone whose behavior we don't agree with, that who have done harm to you or others and like that? Without forgiving, can we have compassion for them? Can we have warm feeling for them? It's hard. So that's why here, if we were to cultivate patience, forgiveness, tolerance, and like that, that's precisely the people that you have to develop patience towards, If everybody is anointing you with your nice perfumes and the flowers and the praises and like that, what kind of forgiveness is needed there? What kind of patience? Patience, the forgiveness are the inner strengths in the face of where that something disagreeable is happening, where our dispositions, tendencies are there to be irritated, be angry, and hate, and like that. It's precisely when those people are actually providing the opportunity for you to grow, for us to grow, in our psychological strengths, inner strengths. Now, it's easy to say that, and that may be true, but can you really forgive? somebody who is doing bad things? How to, without, let's say that, when we are unable to forgive and just really to be angry and hold resentment and like that, who is the first person suffering there? When I can't be at peace, I'm just so troubled by someone's behavior and so angry and like that. Am I at peace? Will I even enjoy my food? Will I even, sleep well? Would it affect my quality of life, my health, psychological health, physical health, and like that? These are what the Shantidevas called that, the anger, the faults of anger, the seen and unseen faults. Shantideva talks about in the Bodhicitta, the Lo-Jong text. Seen is the obvious ones. Is that we notice that when we are struggling with some resentment and anger and can't get this knot off our chest, how painful it is, how it destroys our. Sometimes there's a book written, it's called Anger Kills. I read it a long time ago in 90s. Anger Kills by a psychologist at Duke, William and Virginia Redford. That couple psychologists. Anger Kills. And it tells that, I never forget this, it so resonated with me with these Lo-Jong teachings. It says that if you are a person who standing in the line in the supermarket, in the checkout line, or in the traffic, often get irritated. And then if you often not just got irritated, then blurt like something nasty and like that. If this is something that often happens to me, that he's saying that it says that basically each time you get, have this feeling, that anger, it's like taking a dose of poison that kills you slowly. That's what. So anger in that sense, not to say that anger is all bad all times, but if I am someone who just, in the traffic light it's red little too long and I'm just angry, that's the curse. I don't know who to curse, but just cursing someone like that, like that. Maybe the traffic is moving, maybe a little slow, and cursing at the driver in front of me, and like that. Or the teller in that supermarket is doing his or her job, and there are many customers for many hours, and then just right in front of me it has a lot of things in the trolley, and I just got that idea that this person need to buy all these things today. Like that. Or the cashier is a little too slow and talking to the person, and I'm behind and said that, really, you need to talk like that? You are paid for this? This kind of thing. That's what happens to me. Those are the moments it is a kind of poison. Those feelings are poison. That's slowly, not right there, but it's killing me. It's ruining my immune system. It affects, leading to cancers. And a lot of the people talk about it. It is associated with the distress. Stress, when I'm feeling that, am I feeling joy and warm and like that? Or my whole physiology is in a stress mode. Like that. So we know that, even like how such illnesses like Alzheimer's and like that, people talk about, there is connection to stress. The stress, overstress is, destroying our memory cells and like that, the hippocampus and like that. So you can see that how when we are, just sitting with anger, rumination, the resentment and like that, we are the ones suffering from that. Buddha gave a beautiful example of this metaphor. He talks about that how when we are sitting with this resentment, anger, it's like holding a burning metal, coal, hot. The tighter we hold, the more it will inflict pain, hurt us. The wise thing is to let go. But we hold so strongly that it's going to burn, it's going to hurt. Anger is like that. If there is a way to let go, to forgive, we will be relieved. The more we are sitting with that, this person, this, that, and that, and that's where it's ruining our own peace, ruining our physical health, and then it comes as a poison into our mouth, in our actions. It ruins our relationship with others. It affects. So the right thing is to forgive. But how do we go about forgiving? It's easier said than done, like that. But if we are really set on growing such a capacity for forgiving even the most, troubling actions and behaviors and like that, we have to find a way to forgiving. Today I was teaching a class at Emory. I teach a class on meditation, healing, and science. And we were discussing a part about expanding the circle of concern. How do we transcend our unconscious biases, like that. And one of the students asked, when I was growing, I was studying, I had the same questions. And that question is that when somebody is intending to hurt you, why the hell do you need to forgive them? Why do you need to forgive them? You need to, that person is trying to hurt you. Why do you need to forgive them? How can you forgive them? That's what the question asks. So the why part is different. The first step that in that, what comes out of that? That usually the destruction. The personal. As I said that in those kind of states, we ourselves, it impacts our thinking, our creativity. It ruins the relationship with others also. There is a lot of reasons why. But how part, how do it, So I ask, it's not my creative wisdom, it's of the great masters like Aryadeva, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, or Jesus and the great other beings that all have talked about this. But this particular metaphor or the example, I ask that, imagine you are a doctor. Aryadeva says that. You are a doctor and you care for your patient. Maybe this patient is your sister, little brother, a good friend, that. But they are ill, and then you are the doctor to help them. But this person's illness, whatever the illness, is making them very violent, and they are throwing everything dirt on you, mean, and just saying all the nasty things. And if they have things around, they're going to throw on you. That if that kind of situation you have, would you hate that person? That somebody who is your dear friend, ill, and you are a doctor, and you are aware that the illness is making this person so irritated, so violent. It's the illness is making this person. Would we be hating the person or more concerned? Would we be more concerned about how to cure that illness that's making this person violent? You see that? That is what, Aryadeva says, that when a patient is behaving aggressively under the influence of this negative forces, the illness and like that, a caring doctor, is not upset with the patient. Similarly, it says that the enlightened beings see the afflictions as the enemy, not the people with afflictions. This friend is not the enemy or evil like that. It's the illness that is making them. Friend is not evil, not like that. Now, can we translate that into then, it's easier said than done, but it's a practice that can we bring that into then to say that when we see somebody acting negatively, destructive or like that, can we separate the action and the behavior, the person's behavior and the action? If we come with this, from this stance that a person's misbehavior is led by a certain emotions, and those emotions are led to, shaped by the circumstances, not because this person is evil or bad. The person is the victim of circumstances, and that those feelings, the emotions, they're shaped by the environment. That what kind of environment? I mean, if you see some people who may be very, very, irritable and suspicious and like that, because in their childhood, if they had gone through a lot of neglect and the trauma and the abuse and like that, can we expect that this person would not react to the situation that may resemble, that may, be similar to those? The traumas are like that, the triggers, things that it's not the same thing that happened that is happening, something that reminds that it's associations that happens. So that's why we have to take into account that we are not perfect beings. Self-compassion part comes in accepting us as human beings, wonderful beings, but not perfect. We have our limitations, we have our imperfections. So are others. No one is perfect either. If that lens, when something goes wrong, if I can see from that common humanity, I will be more comfortable with my mistakes, my limitations, instead of beating on myself. But sameness, if I can bring on to others, they too are like me, just like me. Not because of bad person, but the certain attitudes, emotions, there are certain limitations, certain dispositions that are built, and then they are, gained from many circumstances and like that. Of course, it's understandable. It's that perspective that shifts from making the other as evil to understandable. That can happen. But that doesn't take away blaming the action, preventing the action. Action, if that action is hurting them or others, suffering is what we do not want for us or for others. So you have to prevent. The doctor is not going to sit there and say, okay, go ahead, say all the bad things, and then, okay, here are some knives and some stones, and let have it here, throw it on me. That's not going to do that, because it's not helpful for that dear friend, and it's not helpful for me or other people around. You would want to prevent the person from hurting others, having those. Yet you want to prevent, that ultimately preventing that is to cure the illness, to help with it. So that's what, this thing, when you have to see in that context, otherwise it becomes like it's so outrageous, you're talking about to forgive the people who are, that not only kind of, not blame, but see them as treasures. Wow, what are you talking about? Where do you live? That's what kind of world you are living. You have to see that from this context. Does that make sense? That this is what. So in that regard, this verse 6, even when someone I have helped, or in whom I have placed great hopes, mistreats me very unjustly, I will view that person as true spiritual teacher. A spiritual teacher actually has very limited capacity. A spiritual teacher, a teacher can share their experience or what they know or may have worked for them and like that, like that. But if it is about developing forgiveness, developing understanding, developing, patience, then the real teacher is someone who is giving you the real opportunity, right? So real opportunity is when somebody is doing something where you are able to grow that inner fortitude. That is the catalyst. A teacher can teach you. Somebody who is, criticizing you and doing things like that is giving you opportunity, the real opportunity to grow. You cannot be taught by a teacher all the things and then nothing, difficulties happen. You can, stay in the cave practicing for patience for years. That happened, like that. One of the stories told often, actually, that Kuno Lama Rinpoche, who is from my area in the Himalayas, His Holiness talks about a story told by Kuno Lama Rinpoche to His Holiness when he was learning, teaching, studying Lo-Jong, mind training, Bodhicitta. There was a person, meditator, up in the Tibet, up in the hills, the mountains, there are little huts built. There are a lot of meditators. Actually, to this day, you go to Dharamsala, there are little huts on the Himalayan. People spend lifetime there. These meditators. They are called jadels. Lifelong meditators. And then in Tibet, in the mountains, up in the mountains, in the winter, summer, they go up in the mountains and little caves, huts. And then there are, a lot of the traditional Tibetan culture have been nomads, with animals, the sheep, the goats, and the yaks, and like that. They heard that the sheep, they have to take to graze in the summer when the grass grows up higher and higher in the mountains. And then one of those shepherds, taking a lot of with his sheep, go, and then they see this meditator in a cave meditating, and then the shepherd they ask this person, "What are you doing this, in no man's land, like to nowhere, this?" And then the person, the hermit, very proudly says that, "I've been here for many years meditating, meditators." And then the shepherd asked that, what have you been meditating on? That the meditators have been meditating on patience, forgiveness, patience. Then the shepherd said, oh, that's wonderful. That's, you have been practicing meditating for these years. That's wonderful. And he goes with his flock. From a certain distance, he turns around and he tells it, by the way, it's a bad word, by the way, or something, you go to hell, or all you're talking about is, the bullshit or like that, like something they're really bad things he tells. And next thing he sees is that this meditator come out of his cave and to pick stone and then throwing on him. And the shepherd reminds him then, oh, I thought that you have been practicing patience for all these years. What happened? You got it? That was the opportunity. That's the precise opportunity when someone said so obnoxious thing. If you had truly developed the patience, the forgiveness, knowing that, oh yeah, maybe the person doesn't understand. Of course, it's understandable. You would not get he would not have gotten irritated and just lost his temper and even to throw stones to hurt. So that's what both the spiritual teacher teaching about virtues of forgiveness, how to go about. This is all wonderful, sitting in the nice cushion and the warm place and all that nice, like that. Next time when you go out, somebody cuts in front of you, that's the real teacher, giving you opportunity to grow, to forgive or not. If you do that, then that person is real, giving you the opportunity to grow. That's the real teacher. Does that make sense? So let's keep that in mind, yeah. As we think about Lo-Jong, like that. This is what actually long time. Now it seems a long time ago. It's 2008. His Holiness the Dalai Lama was in Seattle, and he was giving an interview to a news anchor, I think from CNN news anchor. I saw the interview. And 2008 was also the time, in the summer Olympics were held in China. So a lot of the Tibetan activists, but also a lot of the friends of Tibet around the world. It started in Greece, when the Olympic torch is taken. From there, there were a lot of demonstrations because there was friends of Tibetans saw that opportunity to kind of, to raise awareness about the human rights abuses in China, under the Chinese Communist government, but in Tibet there were kind of atrocities. So, hold them to that, to raise that awareness. There were a lot of demonstrations that happened. And there was one demonstration that happened in Lhasa in Tibet also, capital of Tibet. And the demonstrations, when people are demonstrating together, you can sometimes get out of control. However it happened, but there was some violence there, that some shops were put on fire, the Chinese-owned shop in Lhasa. And then the Chinese government, communist government, used that as a state kind of propaganda to turn the people's feelings for Tibetans against them in China. Up until then, quite a number of years, there was a huge, among the Han Chinese, mainland Chinese, there was a certain growing appreciation of the Tibetan cultures. A lot of people actually were not only going in Tibet as tourists, but really valuing the kind of the spiritual, culture of Tibet. And so there was a lot of people, the young ones, there was even this trend of like having spiritual teacher, Lama, Tibetan Lama as the spiritual teacher, and like a lot of them. And that's obviously for the communist government, that's a threat, like that. And that they saw this opportunity and they used that as a state-run media to just totally show that how Tibetans are, hating Chinese and burning their properties and like that. And then that it did not stop there. It said that mastermind is the Dalai Lama, the separatists, in that they used the words, just so hurtful, like he's monk with the devil's heart, or the monk in the wolf's, clothes, the wolf in the monk's clothes, and like that, it just for the international, that was through the social media and like that, but particularly for the Chinese, population, kind of this creating this negative, sentiments. It was a huge thing that happened then, and this TV anchor, that aware of that, all that kind of, accusations that being made. The Dalai Lama is actually, he has been anything but violent. That he absolutely asked Tibetans to remain non-violent. That if you resort to violence, I cannot be your leader. Like that. That's how, and Tibetans so deeply admire His Holiness. That's what kept. The Tibetans are actually quite strong. Khampas are very, very, hot-tempered. They're very strong. For them to remain as violent, it's actually His Holiness is what has kept. The importance of being non-violent. So much so that you have heard that since 2009, how many Tibetans have self-immolated? That it's instead of killing others with bombs and like that, in a desperate state to draw attention of international community, the others, that setting themselves on fire. That self-sacrifice. But sometimes we think that this is so violent towards oneself. But you have to understand in the context, in the desperate, like what happened in Vietnam in 1968. One monk sitting and putting on the fire. That changed the way that how people, saw that what's happening in, Vietnam. They brought the end to that, the war and like that. But here, that after almost 200 Tibetans setting on fire, then nothing has happened, like that. But anyway, so His Holiness is an absolutely the kind of, against violence, and he is the one who has kept the Tibetans to stay on the course of non-violent resistance. Non-violent is, raising awareness, but this is what it means, that this is like when mistreats very unjustly, like that, like that. That's you'll get really angry and upset and like that. But it's in this situation when this anger asks that, how are you? Are you not disturbed emotionally? Doesn't it disturb you? That with all this accusation coming in. And like His Holiness said something that it was I've never heard that before. And it was a big kind of, at first it was right, then it makes sense, but He said that on the intellectual level, yes, I can say this upsetting. But emotionally, no, it doesn't upset me. It's opposite for us, for me. Like, I may try to make, some cognitive, intellectually said, oh, that's okay, these people are there. But deep down, just really upset, like that. But His Holiness is saying the opposite. Yeah, intellectually I can say that it's upsetting, but it doesn't emotionally upset me. And then this anger was also, astonished. It would be opposite for normally. How do you do that? How is that possible? How do you do that? And that's the wisdom part. His Holiness said that, I've been practicing for long, from childhood, precisely how to put people's behavior in the context. Learning to develop forgiveness, patience. I've been practicing this for long. And it's precisely in this moment that what I've been doing before, I just did a little bit more intentionally, with a bit more focus. I said that I did two things. One thing I will talk in my last verse when I come in 2 weeks after. But one of the two. First one, he said that, during this time I have made a little bit more focus to remind myself of those perspectives. And he said that I use this verse and, as a self-talk to kind of reinforce, remind. He said that's the verse that I mentioned by the 1st century master Aryadeva. It's in Tibetan translation. Originally it was in Sanskrit. This is the Indian master, Nalanda master, who wrote in India in the 1st century. But the translation is basically, even when a patient acts violently, as the caring doctor is not upset with the patient. Similarly, the enlightened, or those wise ones, see the afflictive emotions as anger, as the enemy, not the people with afflictive emotions. And that's what I have been. So he said that I replaced this, the third line. Enlightened beings see the people with afflictive emotions, the afflictive emotions as enemy, not the people with afflictive emotions. He said that I replaced that to that Tenzin Gyatso, his name. Dalai Lama's name is Tenzin. See the afflictive emotions as anger. Regard the afflictive emotions as enemy, not the people with those anger and, that who are acting like that. It's the anger and the suspicion and the, or, ideology, whatever. That's what is problem, not the people. So he doesn't get upset with the people, doesn't feel anger. That's why these are the things, that's why when His Holiness says that, sometimes we think that, well, is he really saying that, how could this be? It's this kind of thing that tells that when he says that he has compassion for the Chinese communist leaders who have done so much harm, compassion for them. Whoever is doing such, it's doing when they are not in control of their emotions. Under the influence of greed and suspicion and that, like that. They are the object of compassion, not of, hate, like that. this is where you can see it. And then when he says that, like this, precisely like this, he has said that I see the Chinese communist leaders as spiritual teachers. That is what something that he talks about in like books like Art of Happiness and others. He talks about becoming a refugee, coming into India as a refugee, has led him to grow. That if he remained in Tibet in the palace, that's kind of, he would not have had this kind of real opportunity of seeing knowing that what many people go through, those day in and out of fear of whether they will be alive or not, all kind of illnesses and the poverty and all that kind of subjected to those uncertainties, that it gave him a much greater real ability to empathize, understand others, the much greater real degree of compassion for those who are who are going through that. And that's why that he speaks, like that anywhere there is the wars and harms and like that, he can understand the ordinary people's struggles and the challenges and difficulties. Staying behind in a kind of on the throne in a palace and like that, shielded from that, he would not have. He says that he would not have that opportunity. So in that sense, he sees that the opportunity the Chinese communist regime has given him by forcing into the refugee, it's a kind of, in some way, blessing in, disguise. It's not, but that doesn't mean that he says, oh, that's wonderful, okay, keep doing this, more Tibetans to throw into the, no, that those actions need to be stopped, No one needs to suffer, need to be stopped, like that. You have to take this as, when they are committing this action, it's harmful for people who are receiving it, it's bad for them. But they are doing it out of that, great ideology and the suspicion and like that. That's what needs to be cured, like that. Those actions need to be stopped. But what have I learned from this? What have I gained from this? And from that perspective, it was, and we hear that a lot of times, suffering. Suffering is not all bad. Suffering can be such an important catalyst for our growth, like that. Failures and so forth. Catalyst for growth. Shantideva talks about, that one of the things that he talks about is, the suffering have worth also, value, that it helps you become humble, that instead of, it opens your heart to others' situation, empathy and compassion. It leads to, it leads to examine your values, what is important, like that's. In fact, if you look at all the great tradition, whether it's teachings of the Jesus or the Buddha's own, out of witnessing suffering led to that how important is love, is compassion, is the messages and like that. So these are all part of the process for us to not take adversities that we encounter in our life, from others or our own seeming inadequacies and like that. These are not all bad. They are, if we can see what we can learn from them, how we can grow from them. In that sense, we can, really see that this is a blessing. I've heard about, like that many years ago in the 90s, somebody was reading this book, Tibetan book, on living and dying, and there is a practice about the suffering and how to find meaning in suffering and like that. And then there was a person, it was a little group, 5, 6 people, and here in Atlanta, and I was invited to. They are not necessarily Buddhist, but they were reading this book, and then they were, having discussion, and I was a monk, and then asked if I could join one of those discussions. I joined, and they were discussing over there on that particular section, and one of the person they were saying that, like, I read this and I reflect this, happened, I really now feel that see that how having cancer for me was such a blessing. My jaw dropped. She's saying that she had cancer. I mean, she was still with the cancer. That is not totally gone. But she said that having this illness has been a blessing. Now I can see that how it has been a blessing. And then she talked about that. That what a life she was living before she was diagnosed. A life just quite callous. That not valuing the friends, family, and like that. Just on ambition and like that. It actually, that life was so, empty. Now that that I have this illness, I've come to kind of see what is meaningful. I have families, friends. I have come to value, and I have a relationship. It's actually that I wouldn't have this, joy of having family, and in that sense, that we can see that how suffering can be. And that same thing, the criticism. Many spiritual traditions talk about that. You treasure the criticism. Because criticism, sometimes it's true. That we have certain things that we are not seeing in our own ego and all those things, that somebody is pointing out, these are actually helping us. That we have to treasure it if we see from those. Anyway, this is, I hope that this makes some sense. If it does make sense, let's recite some mantra. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Let's have this intention, see the value, to integrating wisdom and compassion in our life, so that we can transform our body, speech, and mind. So we can not only have a greater joy, peace in our life, but we can be that source for others around us. The intention to integrate compassion, love and compassion, and wisdom, understanding. Om Mani Padme Hum. That's what it is. May I integrate compassion and wisdom so that I can transform my body, speech, and mind, and be of greater service, greater help to others. O mani padme hum, 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 O mani padme, O mani padme hum, 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 O mani padme hum. Please take a moment to dedicate this evening that we spent together here, exploring, reflecting on some of these virtues, some of these values, some of these qualities, skills, any goodness that comes from our awareness, having some appreciation, some cultivation of this in us. Let's dedicate these positive forces for our continued growth in our forgiveness, in our own cultivation of love and compassion. And let's dedicate this also for these values, these qualities to flourish in our society, the greater compassionate and loving society to unfold. Let's dedicate this for peace, healing, and harmony in the world. And let's dedicate this for long life and good health of His Holiness the Dalai Lama and other great beings who are the source of inspiration, source of hope, source of peace for so many people. May they live long and have good health, and their altruistic aspiration be realized soon. Thank you. Have a good evening.